Why are some Denver buyers still stuck in bidding wars in 2025? Even in a slowing market, the trap has started to return. And if you're not careful, it could cost you thousands. In this video, I'll break down exactly how the bidding war trap works, where it's showing up in Denver right now, and the real dangers buyers face when they overpay or waive contingencies. Finally, I'll give you the strategies you need to avoid falling into this trap and still coming out on top in today's market. If you're new here, my name is Landon, and I'm a local Denver realtor, and I help buyers and sellers navigate this market every single week. So what you're about to hear comes from real deals happening right now, not just headlines. Now let's start with the basics. What exactly is the bidding war trap? And why does it still exist in 2025? Okay, so you may be wondering, like, how does this happen? We're in a buyer's market right now. How on earth are people ever getting into bidding wars, right? And the truth of it is it all starts with the strategy, right? So sellers will meet with a listing agent, they'll get together, they come up with a strategy to grossly underprice the home, right? In attempt to gain a ton of abnormal activity and attention on that one listing. And so when they do that, everybody gets really excited about the home. They get emotionally invested in the home after they walk through it, after they look at pictures for hours online. And then once they're connected to that home, they want it so bad that they put in an offer, right? Usually just like a normal asking price offer because the price seems very, underpriced or fair, right, to them. Then they find out, you know what, we have 8, 9, 10 offers on this place, obviously, because it's, $100,000, sometimes $50,000 under what the comps say it is. So it's really important that we distinguish right now the difference between list price and market value. So as far as the list price goes, the sellers and the agent can decide on whatever list price they want, right? And that's why we're still seeing a record number of price drops in this market too on the other end of things, right? Is because people are pricing their home too high oftentimes. But there is this certain pocket of homes, this strategy that sellers and their listing agent are deciding on to price that home very, very low, right? And so neither one hits market value, right? The ones that are priced really low, sometimes they have a tendency to go above market value. And then the ones that are priced, too high, they drift under market value. And then they end up giving up way too much, in equity when it's all said and done because of pricing it too high. So there's both ends of the perspective. And we have to find out what market value really is, right? That's why you have to lean on a professional to understand the comparable homes, understand how to make adjustments. That's all very important when you're navigating this Denver market right now. And I've seen several deal-seeking clients that they're just scanning Zillow, just looking for that way underpriced listing because they're just looking for a deal, right? Get emotionally caught on the home, right? And what we mean by that is they just fall in love with the house, right? And feel like, oh man, this house is unique. And they appreciate, the fact that it was priced very reasonably, right? And that type of shopper is at risk at times of buying in so deeply emotionally that they then, once they hear that there's 10, 12, 14 offers at some point, they're willing to go head over heels for this place when there are other homes in the market that may be a better option for them that they can be alone on just because they're priced at market value. So listing agents are using this frenzy to drive up price and terms on homes all across the Denver metro area, especially in hot neighborhoods right now. Believe it or not, in 2025, 14 to 19% of homes in hot Denver neighborhoods sold above asking price. The bidding war trap starts with a home that looks like a deal. Maybe it's listed at $750,000 in a hot neighborhood like Wash Park, when the comps say it's worth closer to $825. That low price is bait. Buyers rush in, emotions take over, and suddenly you've got 10 to 12 offers on the table. People start waiving inspections, throwing out appraisal contingencies, and offering way above list just to win. The problem is, you're not buying the home at its true value anymore. You're paying a premium created by competition. Sellers and their agents know exactly what they're doing in these situations. And if you're not careful, you can walk right into negative equity the moment the market cools. So now that you know how the trap works, let's talk about where it's showing up in the Denver metro area right now. Okay, guys, so the reason why I'm doing this video is because I am really seeing these things show up, okay? They're rearing their head oftentimes in areas that, have a lot of entry-level single-family homes, and they tend to be, is $50,000 to $100,000 below the comps. I just saw 3 this last weekend. Okay, one of them was in the Highlands, is actually in Berkeley, just above the Highlands. That was, it should have been $680,000 to $700,000. This home's priced at $620,000. Then I saw another one that was listed in Castle Rock, right in the Meadows, listed at $505,000. Okay, this home probably should have been listed closer to $575,000. And then there was another one that was in Highlands Ranch that was listed at $600,000, probably should have been closer to $700,000. And so these types of opportunities are popping up. So you just have to be aware that if it's too good to be true, most of the time it's not going to be around, because there's going to be 8, 9, 10, 12 offers on the place before you know it. And so, acting quick might work, but most of the time, keep in mind, this is all part of their strategy, right? So they don't want to deliver on a quick contract. They'll try to stall and push things out 2, 3, 4 days, so that they can soak in that time a little bit and make sure that they buy enough time for there to be multiple offers, competition that's raising that price up above market value is their goal. So we're seeing these happen most of the time in areas like Wash Park. Still, Rhino is so hot right now. The Highlands, Cherry Creek, Highlands Ranch, and Old Town Arvada tend to be the hottest locations where we're seeing this happen pretty often. Also, entry-level homes that are under $600,000 are sparking these multiple offers more often than not. And you see a lot of the entry-level single-family homes in Highlands Ranch and Littleton are especially competitive right now, and it's incredible. Days on market, when you look at the averages, in the entire market, the average was closer to 30 days on market back in April this year, right? That's the hottest time of year to sell a house, and usually the quickest time of year to sell a house because of all the buying demand that's around during that time. And so in April, 30 days was the average in the market. Now we look at Highlands and Wash Park was averaging about 7 to 10 days during April. And you look at other areas like Highlands Ranch, Littleton, Old Town Arvada, those were around 12 to 15 days during that time frame. Okay, fast forward to today, all right, the whole market on average is selling in about 58 days, right? These areas are still selling in under 40 days, so 35 to 40 days during the fall season, which things tend to go a little bit slower during the fall. And so it's incredible to see the difference in the hot areas that are still selling very well compared to these other areas that are averaging 20 to 30 days longer to sell, which means 1 to 2 more price cuts most of the time in some of these areas that are selling a little bit slower. Also, it's interesting to know that home flippers are using this technique to sell quickly and avoid their holding costs, right? So a lot of home flippers use hard money. You guys, that's a secret that you should know, right? So hard money on flips is like 14% interest, right? And that's if you get a pretty solid deal on hard money. Some of them are even paying more than that, like close to credit card interest for these flips. And so their margins go way down if they take longer to sell. And so that's why they're pricing more aggressively now, and a lot of times under market value, just to draw multiple offers and draw a quick sale, right? So even if they're 30,000 under when they price the home, and then that thing gets bid up 40 or 50 grand, watch out for those situations, because especially on flips, when the whole home is renovated, those are the easiest ones to fall in love with, and that for that emotional appeal to trap you. And so, if you're a buyer right now, my best advice for you is to stay level-headed, okay? Use some poise, use some creativity and imagination, right? You could walk through a place. With AI right now, you can take a picture of a room that's dated, that is, 1990 dated, and you can run it through an AI software and make it look amazing in 2025, right? And it can give you ideas on what this room could look like with the exact spacing, the exact configuration that it has, all updated to today's standards. So understand that you can, if you don't have the imagination or creativity to see that, you can use AI to help you a little bit with that. And we're utilizing those tools with our clients right now to help them see the difference, right, between what the home looks like now and what it could look like, the potential that it has. Because those homes that may be cosmetically a little bit dated are the ones that are sitting for 30, 60, 90 days a lot of times. And those are the ones where you can get the best deals and really get the best instant equity walking in the door, right? So that's what we want for you. We don't want you to fall into those bear traps of, that are just enticing, price low, looks amazing everywhere, but there's really no room to improve that house much in the next 10 years because it's already so updated everywhere. So you're gonna walk in overpaying for the house most likely, and then having regrets later. So we like to avoid that with our clients and help you find a great deal so that you can continue to build equity as you go forward, but have some instant equity right when you walk through the door on closing day. So buyers are all chasing the same shiny listings, and because inventory in these pockets is still 10 to 15% below normal, competition gets fierce fast. So what's the real danger for buyers who get caught up in these bidding wars? Okay, so the real danger lies in this, right? We have to think back and learn from the past, right? That's what history classes are for. So if we're thinking about what we just went through in 2020, 2021, right? Buyers had experiences where obviously they were getting very low interest rates, but they had experiences that 82% of buyers during that time frame regret because they didn't like the experience and the house that they bought in some cases because there was such low inventory. So if you're only looking at these deals, right, that look too good to be true online, then you're going to be fighting with a lot of other people. And oftentimes the danger is you begin to waive appraisal, waive inspections, or limit your inspections, right? And you also begin to overpay sometimes. And so the key there is when you waive an appraisal, right? Basically what you're saying is, I don't care what the appraiser says the value is, I will pay cash between the appraised price and the purchase price, regardless of what it appraises for, right? So if I pay $750,000 for a house and the house appraises for $800,000, then I'm fine, right? That's okay because it appraised for more than what the price was, right? But if I'm paying $750,000 for a house and it appraises for $700,000, now I have a $50,000 gap, right? Normally in the contract, there's an appraisal contingency built in. So the seller would have to either come down to meet that price at $700,000, or you could negotiate and say, yeah, you know what, the lender's willing to lend on 700, so I'll bring an additional, $15,000 to the table, and the seller comes down $35,000 to meet me at $715. So there can be some negotiation there. But if you waive appraisal, you're saying that you're going to pay $750 regardless, and you're bringing $50,000 additional to the table above and beyond what your down payment was in the first place. And so that's what that looks like. If you're waiving appraisal, just know you're going to need some extra cash on hand if it does appraise low, right? Which it does happen every now and then. Also, waiving inspections. Okay, some people waive inspections. I think it's crazy. It's like you have no idea the history of that house, and I've been around long enough. After 18 years of doing this, I've seen all kinds of things that can go wrong with a house. And I just had one recently where we were negotiating on an inspection item, and there was a request for a fireplace to be just cleaned and serviced. And we went in there. Turns out all the parts were retrofitted. Turns out that there was a log burner instead of a gas burner for a gas fireplace, completely against code, and it was a fire hazard, right? So this whole thing had to be replaced. We're talking about thousands of dollars on a fireplace alone that normally you don't have any issues with fireplaces, right? So if you don't do an inspection, or if you waive the inspection, oftentimes you'll run into major surprises and major headaches, and you have no recourse. You have no way to ask the seller, especially if you've already waived your right to pull back your earnest money, and your earnest money is hard at that point, which some people do in these bidding wars. So it's just so important to let those contingencies in the contract work for you, and let that process play out naturally, right? There are other homes on the market, right? So don't just fall in love with that one home that's grossly underpriced. Make sure you're considering all of the options in the area, and even the ones that may not be completely turnkey, right? They can be great homes with a little bit of time, money, and effort put into them. And it'll probably be less than you would have put by going that opposite route. And, as the market softens, buyers can then be underwater, by quite a bit. And, that's what happened temporarily for a lot of those buyers that were, buying in 21 and 22. They began to be a little bit underwater in the latter end of 22, where our market dropped 8%, at the second half of the year. Now we had grown, during the first half of the year. So if you rode that whole wave, you were fine. But if you bought in May of 2022, that was a challenge because by the end of the year, you were underwater at that point. So how do you avoid falling into this trap while still competing for the right home? So the biggest advice that I have for you is, like I said at the beginning of this video, don't let the list price anchor your bid, right? Use comps. The first thing we do when we see a great home that a buyer wants to make an offer on is we review the comps. We make sure that we know what the market value is for this home, and then we strategize around what market value is, regardless of what the list price is, right? The other thing is set a walkaway number. So understand, your limit financially, and don't go over that limit, even if you love this house, right? It doesn't matter how emotional you are over the house. Try and take the emotions out of it as much as possible until the home is yours, right? Then you can fall in love. But before that, just fall in like, right? Just like the house. There's nothing wrong with just liking it until it's actually your home, okay? And the best buyers that I work with don't fall in love with homes, and they allow me to go to bat for them and go negotiate for them, right? And if I can do that, then we'll tend to negotiate much better, and we'll walk away with a much lower number for you so that you can get the terms and the price and the concessions that you're looking for. And oftentimes that means the interest rate that you're looking for as well. So all of that is very important. Staying poised is the way to go throughout this process. Another way to do it is look for homes that have been on the market for 30 plus days. Okay, even better if they've been on 60, 90, 100 days. The longer they've been on the market, historically, it's been tracked for 100 years, the lower those homes are going to get on price on average, right? So just understanding that every week that goes by, the sellers are asking their agent, where are all the buyers? Why aren't we getting showings? We're getting showings, but we're not getting offers, right? Those conversations are powerful for you on the buying end. Even if you don't know that they're happening, trust me, they are happening on the other end, because I've been on both sides of it. And when that's happening, that is leverage in your side, right? I've even heard the question that sellers ask a lot of times, why isn't anyone even making a low offer on our house, right? They're asking for a low offer in some cases, okay? So on those homes that you have leverage on that have been on the market for 30 plus days, those are the opportunities for you right now. So I would really gear in on those homes and just don't be afraid to make offers and throw offers in. Working with the right agent that isn't afraid to do that is pretty critical, right? And also working with the right agent that can identify these bidding wars and understand when they're happening and how to navigate them. That's also critical. Now that we're seeing those come up a little bit more often in this market, it's kind of turning its tide a little bit and showing us that competition is happening on these aggressively priced homes in hot areas. I've helped buyers win in competitive situations without overpaying. I've also helped other clients toward opportunities that others overlooked because they weren't caught up in this frenzy. And yes, the bidding war trap is back in Denver, but if you know where and why, you don't have to get burned. If you're planning to buy in Denver this year, reach out. I'll help you spot the traps, compete smartly when you need to, and find the opportunities that others are missing. My contact info is on the screen, so you can call me or text me anytime. And if you want to understand the bigger picture of what's happening in Denver real estate right now, check out my next video. The Denver market is splitting in two. That would give you the full context on where the opportunities are and where the risks are. Click on it and I'll see you there.